What is the stupidest thing you thought as a child? Not me, but my son. He didn't want us to get a new TV because he liked the shows on the old one. To be fair, my parents have said similar things about their computer and email. I was told that God lived up in the sky. For some reason, the highest thing I could imagine was the pipe sticking out of the neighbor's roof. So I thought God lived in the pipe. I have a friend who teaches. A kid asked her, when they give money at church, how does a church get it to God? My friend jokingly said they tie it to a balloon and let it float up to heaven. The kid said he was going to ask her pastor if she could watch next time they did it. My friend teaches high school juniors. I remember asking my mother what those pills were on her night table. She told me that they were birth control pills, and if she stopped taking them, she'd have a baby. Years later, as we kids got to the age where we started to really learn about reproduction, I was still sure that there was no sex involved. Just stop taking those pills and voila, baby. My dad said that he put me inside my mum, so I thought that she went to the hospital and cut her stomach open and my dad put a small me in there and they sewed it back up. I had seen photos of some sperm cells and thought that their shape was pretty similar to a dickhead gland's penis. This made me think that the dickhead is a sperm cell and every human has one sperm cell at a time. Whenever you have sexual intercourse, the dickhead just passes into the woman and your penis is left there without a head. I thought that every song that played on the radio was being performed somewhere live, and when you turned up the volume the singer would sing louder at his/her venue. Oh, this but double for me, because my grandfather was a radio presenter when I was a kid. So I'd hear my papa on the radio and know he was in a room somewhere. I thought there was a band there with him cranking out the hits. It didn't help that in true grandfather style he encouraged the belief. I noticed that I was able to jump off of the playground and land on my feet and be perfectly fine. So my child mind immediately decided I was a superhero and could land from any height and be perfectly fine. I went to my friend's house, jumped off his roof, and the next thing I remember is crying until my mom picked me up. I thought so too, but I jumped out of the back of a moving vehicle because I saw one of my friends and my parents didn't stop the truck. It didn't go so well. That if two artists made a song together it must mean they are a couple. I couldn't fathom how thermoses worked. People told me that they keep hot things hot and cold things cold. But I was like, how in the fuck does it know whether the thing inside it is hot or cold so as to keep it that way? Took me many a year to figure that out. I used to believe I could save up my hots and my colds to use them later. For example, if it was really hot outside, I would whisper, save up all these hots. Then when I would get cold, I would summon the extra hots by whispering, give me all my hots, and it was supposed to make me warmer. I thought that anytime any woman went to the hospital, it was to have a baby. My 98-year-old great-grandmother was in the hospital and all I wanted to know is when the baby was gonna get here. This is really common with young kids. I think they are shown hospitals as the place where babies are born instead of the place where sick/hurt people go to make them less afraid. I met someone who thought sleeping together literally just meant sleeping in the same bed and freaked out that she would get pregnant when on a school trip they required people to share beds. She was 14. Everyone on the trip was a girl. This is why sex education is important. This was me at age 13 without the pregnancy idea. My mom asked me if my boyfriend and I were sleeping together, and I answered we didn't have enough time together to go take naps. I thought catching on fire as an adult is common because of all the fire safety in elementary and them beating stop, drop, and roll into our heads. And quicksand. I thought it would play a much larger role in my life. Right? It seemed like every single movie and TV show growing up had some episode where someone had to escape quicksand, and I was like, oh shit, I better be prepared for when I inevitably fall in quicksand as an adult. I thought burglary was a profession, and that criminals' shifts started when the sun set, and they'd be on all night robbing houses. To calm my fears, I would put my blinds up a little, lay down in a pile of stuffed animals and freeze, staring out the window. My thought was I'd look like a doll, and if a burglar saw me through the window, they wouldn't realize I was a human, and then I could get up and call 911 when they looked away. I fell asleep in that stuffed animal pile every night for 2 years. I did that too, but I was hiding from the aliens. I thought that oral sex was a slang term for French kissing, and therefore anal sex must mean two people standing back to back, rubbing butts. I thought oral sex was talking about sex. Not dirty talk, but more of a discussion about whether or not the people involved would have sex. Then once they had sorted out the question and negotiated stuff like whether or not kissing or hugging would be involved, they would either have sex or arrange to have it a bit later on. I figured people did this because sex sounded very weird anyway and I totally couldn't see the point, so it would make sense that they make sure the other person wanted to as well. I'm sure this is pretty common, but I used to think before color TV everything was black and white. I remember as a child asking my nan what it was like when they saw color for the first time. Asking mine that question would result in a racist tirade. When we were little, my twin sister was convinced that chicken, beef, etc. was produced by vacuuming the meat out of the living animal. The animal would then walk around all wobbly and meatless until more meat grew back. I thought Santa hated me because he didn't give me presents on Christmas. I'm Jewish and my parents didn't want me to be that kid who told his classmates that Santa doesn't exist. So I ended up believing in Santa until I was about 8 when I saw 2 mall Santas get into a fight in the parking lot of the mall. When I was around 6, my mum's grandmother passed away and my dad's father passed away. I told my mom that her grandfather should marry my dad's mom so they wouldn't be lonely. Went to my aunt's funeral and asked everyone when we'd see her again. Coffin pops open.